This is the Sony 20-70 f4G lens. No, I didn't misspeak like my promises to my children. I said 20, which is ultra wide, 270 short telephoto. This versatile lens is new to the market and it will be a favorite among photographers and filmmakers alike. Whether you're a professional or a hobbyist, the 20-70 offers a range of focal lengths that make it a go-to lens for a variety of shooting scenarios. In this video, we'll take a closer look at its build quality, sharpness, bokeh, and more chapters in the description. So if you're considering adding this to your lens collection or simply curious to learn more about it, stick around and let's get started with the build quality. Let's start off with the zoom ring. Nice and smooth. This manual focus wheel is smooth. It's not really dampened. AF, MF switch. Here's the iris lock down here. So now it's unlocked. So once you spin, it spins freely. And then lock it back up. Oh, but before that, let's just click. Now it's on clicked mode. Otherwise, it's declicked. And then lock it back up. The hood is nice and stiff. The exterior of the lens is high quality plastic with 72mm filter threads under 500 grams, under 4 inches long. Let's have a brief look at minimum focus distance. Many of the wider end lenses have minimum focus on the wide end. However, the 20-70 has it on the telephoto end, so it's easier to get in on subjects that are a little bit risky. It is an interesting approach. Next up is the autofocus test, and since this is a Sony lens, it's going to perform well in good light, so we'll do a test in poor light. Alright, this is at 35mm, so I could get a little bit of background blur, 1/50th of shutter speed, f4, 12,800 ISO. Background. Are you struggling because you're f4? Well, hopefully it's not. Alright, so as I get closer, that light that I put back there, right there, it should get larger because I'm starting to get in focus, so that out of focus should start getting larger. Ha 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 ha. It is actually focusing on me, and the ambient light is just lighting me up, so it's hardly anything because I'm like 20 feet away. Okay. How about now? It's kind of slow, but hey, it is still working. And this is ridiculous light. I would not ever suggest that you focus in this low light scenario. But if you have to, well, there it is. Slightly out of focus. Is it gonna catch back on? Or maybe this is too dark. Okay, what if I raise the ISO? Okay, this is 51,000 ISO. Okay, so it seems like once I raise the ISO, I don't think you should ever be this high, 51,000. But eye autofocus tracking is on my face. I mean, it recognizes me right away. Is this a low light lens? No. So just get some external lights and you should be fine. There it is. Focus is much better now. There you have it. Next up, we're going to have a look at the sharpness, and I have a point of reference. The Tamron 20-40 f2.8 on the wider end, and the Sigma 28-70 f2.8 on the longer end. While the Sony is slower aperture-wise, it has a range that surpasses the Tamron on the long side and the Sigma on the wide side. Can it really hold up to these lenses with shorter ranges and wider apertures? Let's find out. Here side by sides, we're just gonna zoom in about that much. And you can see they're both sharp. There's no question about it. Even this fine lettering right here, you can see. This is wide open. Okay, I'm moving one side, and on itself, it looks okay. I mean, wide open. You gain this type of sharpness, that is to be expected. There's some degradation. It's not a whole lot. And here's the other side. But you can notice that this one is a lot sharper. now that you compare it side by side. And wow, it is shocking. Now we've got the Tamron on equal staging. This is f4 with the Tamron, and it does sharpen up quite a bit. I wouldn't say it's quite the level of the Sony, but on the flip side, you see that the vignetting has disappeared quite a bit. So, you know, you get some sort of trade-off here. Alright, now they are at equal footing at f5.6. Center is nice and clear as you would expect it. Mid-frame, excellent. And now the far corners. And I'd say both lenses perform very good at this. The Sony seems like it might have maxed out very early on, and it's staying blistering sharp. And now the Tamron pretty much catches up. It's hard to see the difference between the two. At f8, there isn't much change. I'd say that the Sony looks a bit more vibrant. It's a bit brighter for whatever reason. Let's zoom in. And let's have a look at the other direction. As you can see, pin sharp on both of these. And all the way to the far edges down here. Yeah, both of them are just pin sharp at this stage. It's kind of hard telling the difference between the two at this magnification. If you're using a higher megapixel camera like the A7R5, you might discover a minor difference. Next up, they are matched up at 35 millimeters. Sony is at f4, Tamron is at f2.8. As expected, both lenses are extremely sharp in the center. And Sony, I mean, by just this standard, it is very sharp in the edges as well. Definitely beats out the Tamron. It's not by a huge margin, but it is there. Of course, the Tamron is at f2.8. Let's stop it down a bit. All right, now that we're stopped down, the Tamron does feel a bit sharper. This detail right here, it's extremely close. This is at f5.6. Yeah, it's quite difficult to discern the difference between the two. Both lenses are about as good as they can get right here. And back to the middle, you know what? You can't really flaw these lenses at the far ends and stop down. Next up, we're going to compare the 20-70 against another lens in the same size range, in the same form factor. The Sigma 28-70mm f2.8. How does it hold up? Let's have a look. Alright, 28mm f4 f2.8. Right off the bat, Sigma has a bit more vignetting. And we'll take a look at the Sigma. Here is the center, and they both look good. And once you move towards the mid frame, I believe that the Sony might be a hair sharper at this point. However, things change drastically once you get to the far edges. Sigma has a substantial lead right now. You can see that these leaf details is just much sharper at 28mm. And this Sigma, it's wide open, so imagine it being stopped down right here. Indeed it is. And this is at f4. Both of them are equal standing. Look down here. The detail is just much clearer. And there may be something to this. Not sure, because if you look at the Sony right here, you just go in a little bit and the Sony is sharper. So I don't quite get this behavior. Moving back towards the middle seems quite equal to me. At 5.6, no complaints. Both are very good. Towards the mid frame, both are very good. Far corners, the Sony improved a bit, but it still definitely lags behind, noticeably behind. As you can see here, even with the far edges, you can see the door is just not quite on the level of the Sigma. At f8, Sony did improve. Everything is looking better, however, still lagging. So this didn't make sense to me. What I did was I took another shot, and looking in on it, there is definitely softening. I can't really explain it because take a look right here. I took a test shot before I went to do any of this. And look, it is sharp here. I mean, you can see this detail even in these fine lines. And I go to the other corner and it's sharp, fine lines. So I can't really explain what's going on. It could be field curvature. Anyhow, back to the test. Both are wide open. And I say at the center, the Sony has a bit of an advantage. It looks a little bit sharper. And the edges, they're both having degradation at this point. You can definitely see that it could be clearer. Let's see what happens when the Sigma stops down. So the Sigma did improve. You see this bush right here? This is where the Sony is already good. It's very sharp at this one. However, at this far edge, that's where it degrades a little bit. And Sigma, even though it stopped down a stop to f4, it's still behind. f5.6, Sony does lead by a bit. It's noticeably sharper. Sigma, it doesn't seem to have improved that much. In the center, just looking at these bushes, I'd say they're in equal grounds. Both are strikingly sharp. Again, at f8, both are essentially unchanged. This is the mid frame, and it looks mostly the same. However, if you look at this tree right here, I think the Sony is just a little bit clearer. And when it comes to the far edges, the Sony is bitingly sharp at this point. Sigma still hasn't caught up, and it doesn't really catch up ever because that's just as far as the lens can go. If you look at the Sigma by itself, you can see that it's not bad. I'm just saying that the Sony is just a small notch above of it. Next up, we're going to compare the Sony 20-70 to the Tamron 20-40 f2.8. It's going to be wider aperture-wise, so it should be smoother. As you can see on the right-hand side, it is smoother, and it's arguably too smooth, while the Sony has a little bit more context, and the Sony is wider. Here it is at the 40mm end. I think the smoothness of the Tamron looks great. And at the same time, look at what the Sony does right here at 70mm. That's right, it can go all the way there. So the blurring ability, because of the focal length, it's just so much that here it is with the Tamron. You can see the big difference in compression. For the longer range, I'm going to compare the 20-70 f4 to the 28-70 f2.8 Sigma. All right, we're going to do this 28mm test. I'm trying to get some foreground and background in the photo or video. This is 28mm at f4 on the Sony 20-70, and there are bees around me. So I'll just be moving slow and sitting very still. This is f4. Since I'm here, let's have a brief look at the range from 28mm. 20. I'm sitting on the same spot. It's a massive difference. Next up, we're going to have a look at bokeh at 70mm. Of course, the left is the Sony, the right is the Sigma. What do you think? There's not a whole lot of difference, is there? The foreground's a little bit more blurry. The background is a little bit more blurry on the Sigma. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Next up, we'll have a look at Sunstars. Start off at f4. Okay, now is f5.6. There's not much still. We're at f8. f11. And f16. So f16 is pretty sweet. And of course f/22 is gonna look really good. And back down to 16, back down to 11. At minimum, you have to be at f11. This is f11, f8. It's gone at f8. You see that? Now we're going to have a look with the sun straight in at different focal lengths. Here's flare at f4. Let's see if it shows up or not. That's the sun right there. So at the wide end, it's fairly resistant. Let's go to 35 millimeter. All right, and here we go. There it is. You see the flare? Okay, let's go to 70 millimeters. So I know you can catch quite a bit of flare at 70. And there it is by the right corner. So it's not completely flare resistant. It can definitely flare if you have sun directly inside the lens element. It's just the flare resistance at 70 is not the best. It does knock out the contrast a bit. Now to check out focus breathing. Honey, can you help touch me just this one time?
Bruh.
I don't ask for you to touch me that often. Alright, just one time. On me, okay? Just on me. On me. Alright, good. Good. It wasn't so hard, was it? Now the background. Back to me. Pretty simple, isn't it? Background. Alright, let's zoom in. Alright. On me. Background. I think at this distance, it looks fantastic. So if your body doesn't have focus breathing compensation, don't sweat it. Alright, here's 70 millimeters close. Infinity. To my eyes, looks pretty darn usable. See? Okay, now I'm going to check how parafocal the lens is to this little flower right here. Let's zoom in. Alright, see, I'm zoomed in and I am focused on that. Now, the lens is on manual focus and we're going to zoom in. See if it maintains. And unfortunately, it does not. It is going somewhere. Alright, that is the full range. Final thoughts. The Sony 20-70 is a fantastic all-around lens that is well worth the investment for amateur and professionals. I do think it's priced right, at least for the American market at $10.99. Its versatility, excellent build quality, optical performance makes it a top choice for anyone looking for a versatile lens that can handle a wide range of shooting situations. Whether you're shooting landscapes, portraits, events, or video, the 20-70 is a workhorse that delivers consistently great results except that oddity of 28 millimeters. It's much like the 24-105 in that it's extremely flexible with a bias on the wide end, which is tougher to replicate than the telephoto since you can simply crop and take the quality hit, but walking backwards might not be possible. Going from 24 to 20 is as significant as going 70 to 105. Don't let the small numbers fool you. There's a 10-degree difference in angle of view with 20 compared to 24 and 11 for 70 and 105. The lens is also considerably more compact and lightweight compared to the 24-105, which makes it more desirable for travel. Sure, the lens isn't parfocal. Sure, the flare could be better. On the other hand, focus breathing is quite good. Sunstars are decent. Sharpness and bokeh fall in line with other high-performing G lenses. Overall, I think the lens will be the de facto choice for many users. The Sony 20-70 is a lens that was built specifically for mirrorless, a lens that wasn't possible in the DSLR era. It is something new, a lens that pushes the boundaries to the point that it can't be ignored. For anyone that uses an ultra-wide, for anyone that uses conventional lenses, I think Sony laid the groundwork with this to test the market for more to come. If you're an avid landscape or real estate photographer, you might find out that 20 is not wide enough. If you're an event photographer, you might find out that f4 isn't large enough. If you're a hiker and enjoy the outdoors, 70 might be too short. This isn't going to be a perfect lens. It might not even be the right lens for you. However, it is a lens that can truly go from ultra-wide to short telephoto. And there aren't many lenses like it at all, which makes it highly desirable because the downsides won't be deal breakers for many, and the convenience, the weight savings, the quality, like I said, it is hard to ignore. Anyhow, that's all I got for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share. See you on the next one. Take care.